So we've come to Dean Trust in Ardwick to work with secondary school children. Basically, the whole project is about sort of cultural identity, immigration, a sense of kind of home and what that means for people, especially people who've travelled from all over the world really and found a home in Manchester. And what we're doing is we're kind of creating a musical project based around stories and the history of these children's families, actually some of the children themselves who have travelled and decided that Manchester is this sort of place that they want to call home, which is lovely. So we're using some of those ideas to, I suppose, create things like lyrics and musical ideas for a performance that we're doing, a couple of performances we're doing actually in Manchester at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. So it started off a little bit quiet, but as soon as we had Kabantu up and performing, there were so many ideas being thrown around.
We started and they were a bit quiet, but then once they actually heard live music, I think they really responded to that, because then we got into some really great discussions about their feelings, their responses to their stories, remembering what it was like to interview the people a year ago and write those stories. And then I think they got pretty excited by all the different kind of sounds that we could make.
Yeah, and it was really insightful comments. Like, we had a big discussion about how these stories are quite intrusive to people's lives and how we can make sure we treat them with respect, and we make sure we're doing justice to the stories and sharing them in the kind of the right sort of way as well, which was really good.
Yeah, there were lots of thoughts about how every story matters and how there are so many different stories, but they all contribute, they all add to this, really building a sense of diversity and equality to these stories, to this place.
So the children worked with some historians from Cambridge about a year ago to document the stories of their parents' immigration, because most of them were actually born in the UK, but they didn't know the story of their family, so they interviewed their parents and came up with these stories, and then they wrote them down, and then we listened to their own recordings of the stories to come up with the music. So we would listen to the stories and then we kind of respond to them, and from that we get shaped into improvisations around our feelings. So it's quite interesting, because it's actually from an audience point of view, which is really important for a story, because a story is meant to be shared and to be interpreted, and the whole point of a story is that then you can see a story through someone else's eyes as the audience and as the storyteller. So I guess we're kind of displacing that one step further through music, and then people can displace that one step further depending on how they interpret and how they relate to the stories as well.
Different parts, so it's a very multifaceted piece which is all coming together at the end. So we've got a poem written by Shamshad Khan based on these stories, so that's going on. Then we've got the series of workshops in school to devise the final piece, using their recordings as inspiration to create this song at the end. We've got 4 actors and kind of movement artists who are going to be performing the words of the poem alongside the Vonnegut Collective, 2 players from the Vonnegut Collective, Gemma and Gary, who will be doing live musical improvisation. And then we have Kabantu, who are a fantastic band that we've been working with today, who will be playing songs, kind of signposting each section, home, travelling and arriving. So there's loads and loads of elements, but we're really excited to put it all together.
Yeah, it's about 80 people altogether, I think.
Yeah, it's massive.
You've just listed. So,
yeah.
A lot of moving parts.